one thing that a lot of people in this space struggle with when they're a pro, when they're starting a brand, is selling out.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a big thing.
Well, listen, I came here to bring some value, so I'm going right at the...
Let's go. Go right to the sellout. Let's get it.
I want to be a respectful visitor to everybody who's listening. This is the elephant in the room for everyone who's listening. Everybody who's listening who's either starting a hoodie brand, is a 9, 12, 15-year-old, 40-year-old that's trying to get brand deals and do stuff. All of you listening right now in any shape or form, whether you're the human or you're starting a brand selling something, the thing that is constantly in your head, because this space is so good. Like I don't know if you're seeing these little goosebumps I'm getting right now. When I was delivering that, it's the reason I was able to go there so quick is the authenticity and truth and awesomeness of true community that this genre has. And I would go all the way from BMX, surf, and skateboarding. I'm capturing it all.
Sure.
It's the gift and the curse.
Mm-hmm.
If you're about it, you grew up in it and you're about it, and now you're at the crossroads of the business part, and you've been anti-establishment, fuck the brands. Every brand that was a street brand with you guys that did well because they were young and you were young, when they're at year 10 and they sold their company to Coca-Cola or Pepsi, for the 14-year-old, now that you're 24, for the 14-year-old, that's the sellout brand, even though it wasn't for you. It's just the way the game's played.
Absolutely.
So what I would say is step one, and this is very powerful. I am a good businessman. I have done well. I am purebred entrepreneur, but the reason I am is I've never compromised ever on my soul or my essence for the short-term dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that most people do.
Right.
That when in the face of their first financial events, they're incapable, and I get it. You have debt. You want to buy your mama a house. You've never had money and you looked up to having a chain or a Lamborghini. Everything's appropriate. It's all appropriate. And so in the face of that sellout moment, it's extremely hard. And then you go down the path in your mind of justifying the sellout.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden, you're telling a story to yourself and your homies of well, but remember when Mountain Dew did this or did Pabst did, you're just whatever the brand. Yeah. And by the way, the reason I just brought up those two, those are good brands that are big brands.
Sure.
They've done a better job, right, than others.
Totally.
But they're still 6 years ago, your 12 best friends heard you say fuck Pabst. You know what I mean? That's a big company. We're going to start our own microbrew or OP or this or Slash, whatever it is. So couple things. One, the biggest thing that I spend time thinking about is living within your means and how much simplicity is actually happiness. Mm-hmm. So my journey, I know a lot of people listening have never heard of me or might even think I'm loud or don't really know me or have a hot take off of one video.
Sure.
So I'll give you a little context. My background was I built my dad's liquor store business for him in my 20s and 30s. I'm a Belarusian immigrant. We came to America, we had nothing. I grew up in Queens and then Edison, New Jersey. Very immigrant lifestyle. My parents, Nintendo, I had to buy with my own baseball card and lemonade money. So my mom was you're not getting stuff. You'll get clothes, food, and she would buy the occasional present for a birthday, but I didn't get toys off cycle. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't, I'm not there's two people in the world. People that got toys on cycle or off cycle. On cycle was birthday and the biggest holiday.
Christmas.
That's right. For me, Hanukkah, right?
Yeah.
Off cycle is people that just went to Toys R Us randomly on Thursday and got shit. Yeah. That was not my life. That was not my life.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted stuff. Who doesn't? And so I learned to eat on what I hunted. I did lemonade. I did garage sale. I did washing cars. I did it. And so that's how I grew up. It made me who I am. But what's really interesting in hindsight was I didn't want money to buy things to impress others, which is what I believe most people do.
Yeah, it's very true.
I don't think people realize, even people who are listening right now who say that's not me, might not realize it's them. Yeah. People don't realize that the Rolex or the Lambo or these things are 65% of the time there to cover your own insecurity and project. I've tried to do a better job clarifying. I used to be very aggressive against this, but there are many people who grow up and actually care about the craftsmanship of watches and appreciate it. That's a different thing. That's you're doing it for you.
Yeah.
But it's when people are doing it for them to disguise their insecurity because they didn't grow up with anything, or they think they're from the trailer park, or a minority, or a gender, or whatever it is. That becomes a Band-Aid that compounds your issue.
No doubt.
I got lucky in that I felt so much gratitude towards my parents for getting me out of Soviet Russia, for being the best parents, for always trying to do by me. And I kind of had this sense that I was special at business early, that I was like, pretty much romanticized this concept in my mind in my teenage years that I was going to go into the family business and explode it for my pops, and then I would do something. And that became more real when my brother was born and became my best friend. When I was 18, my 7-year-old brother AJ was already my best friend. He was more mature than most 7-year-olds. I was more immature than most 18-year-olds. And we kind of, and so somewhere around the time he was 14 or 15, 16, he already started talking about, we're going to, we already kind of decided we're going to do business together.
Okay.
What was also interesting is my dad's kind of an old school guy, and my brother's more like my dad than I am, and I'm more of a good compliment for my dad. So my brother knew pretty early, 15, 16, he didn't want to work in the wine store, in the liquor store. So I already had in the back of my mind that there may be this crossroads where I might do something with AJ. I kind of thought of it as I was going to do both. I didn't really know. But I remember knowing that I was going to give my parents this time.
Sure.
And for people who are listening that are in immigrant family businesses, I grew my dad's business from a $4 million business to a $65 million business in a very short period of time.
Wow, dude.
Impressive.
And it really, as you can imagine, changes a family's life.
Yeah.
Like, it just changed everything for us. I had to buy my first car was bought at a garage sale. My brother's first car was
They're selling cars at garage sales?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like,
$50? What do you, I mean,
550 bucks. A 1976 Monte Carlo red cherry with a huge dent in it.
perfect. Perfect.
My brother's first car was a Lexus, right? So that's a very big difference of 11 years, right?
Sure.
But so I changed my family's business. But what was challenging was this business was exploding, but I was getting paid $60,000 a year, $40,000 a year, $50,000 a year, like not big numbers. Had I gone and just got employed by somebody and given a chance, I could be making millions doing this. So it was a really interesting chapter where I gave up the first 12 years of my career from 22 to 34 for my parents. Never made a lot of money, lived in an apartment by the store in Springfield, New Jersey. And, I see a lot of value in that. I've talked about that at length, but something I'm starting to realize was I got double lucky because I was never going to get paid anything. And because I was so committed to the religious ideology of I'm going to help my parents, I didn't even have the option to want to buy good things.
Right.
It wasn't even in play. I wasn't in control. I was in control of the decision I made to help my parents, but the economics that came along with it limited the things I could do, so I did nothing. I bought nothing. And from 22 to 34, never making that much money, I was happy as shit.
And that structure was already built in.
I was happy as shit.
You do what you loved. Yeah.
I was happy as shit.
Yeah.
There's like we could break it down a million different ways. I was happy as shit.
Yeah.
More importantly, big kudos to my mother. I was happy as shit from 5 to 15 where we really didn't have shit.
Right.
So I think the luckiest person on earth is someone that's born into nothing, who's happy every day, because she or he, when they become an adult, realize compoundly black and white obvious that money does not equate to happiness.
Right.
Right? Because if you're born into a lot and you're happy, you might consciously and subconsciously think the money made you happy. We went on nice vacations, dinners.
Yeah.
If you're born into nothing and your household's unhappy, you think money will get you out of it.
Sure.
But if you're born into nothing and you're happy the whole time, boy, are you on a foundation.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So why am I saying all this random stuff? Back to the question. I think people are making some fundamental cultural mistakes when it comes to business, money, even though I'm a business and money guy. I think one has to ask themselves, am I going to be happy? And what they have to ask is questions like, okay, I might get this $1 million deal from this brand, but I'm going to completely compromise my soul, and my best friends are going to make fun of me, and everyone's going to know, and it's going to feel weird. And yes, I could have this stuff, but is that good, bad, or indifferent? And for everybody who's listening, they're like, who doesn't have money, it's like, fuck you, who gives a shit? Like, easy for you to say you have it now. But the answer is, I have it now. What they don't know is how much happiness happened in the first 35 years of my life without it. So it's not like I don't know.
Yeah.
I love when people talk, like, I lived it. I lived not making $100,000 a year for the majority of my life. 100. Now people talking billions and millions.
Yeah, yeah.
People don't feel like people feel like being a millionaire is like entry level, but it's not, and it's hard. And it goes back to what I believe, which is for everybody who's listening, when you make these decisions that are a conflict between the business opportunity and what your soul's about, you could own a home with a pool, you could live in an apartment and rent it, and it's very easy for the apartment renter to be dramatically happier than the homeowner with a pool. And a lot of people listening here know that to be true. And that is the conversation we need to be having, which the person that gets hurt is the one that's trying to live outside their means without a lot.
Yeah.
Who go into extreme debt, try to keep up with the Joneses when they can't. I feel a lot of compassion for that. I had a great email from a DM from a kid who's like, Gary, I'm struggling. I'm hearing you. I'm pretty thoughtful. I've got a problem. Keeps going. He's like, I have 4 brothers. All 4 of them make a ton of money, and I don't. And it's like, and I'm happy for them. The DM really caught me. I think it was a DM now that I remember. It caught me because he was happy. No, it was an email. I'm sorry, because now I have my laptop. I didn't have a laptop for 5.5 years before COVID. But then when COVID came, I needed a laptop for Zoom.
Okay.
And so like I'm back to laptop life. It's very weird. Anyway, I'm very passionate about this. I think there's a lot of different ways to live life, but if you can live within your means and not keep up with the Joneses and not let other people's judgment cast on you, you can have a much happier life. And I think a lot of people in this space are incredibly authentic to the space. And I think they need to have this convo more because it'll lead to them not doing that deal. And oh, by the way, there's a funny thing that they don't tell you in business school. When you say no to 2 things and you keep your authenticity, it does something for your soul, and you find yourself 3 years later being in a place where you're getting offered more money from a brand that does fuck with you and you fuck with.
right.
Yeah.
And that lack of patience catches people, and they don't realize that if they just followed the path that got them to the first offer, if they doubled down on that authenticity and work ethic and grind, they could find themselves there 27 months later and getting the actual deal that actually works for them because they actually consume that beverage, they actually fuck with that utensil, they and that becomes a whole different game.
No doubt.
I think skateboarding is an interesting thing because, like, obviously, like, it's a huge industry, right?
Huge.
It's huge, but at the same time, there's like, hundreds and thousands of skateboarders out there.
Small circles.
You know what I mean?
I know,
And
of course
so,
I do. I watch you guys.
And so, having, and there's the handful of people who make the big money,
Correct.
who are getting the big contracts.
Can I tell you something what's interesting about that? I'm
Sure,
sorry to
no,
interrupt.
please.
Same with big sports. I represent a lot of NFL players. We had an NFL player who just signed a contract for $5,000.
What?
Yeah, when you don't get drafted, and they give you $5,000 in guaranteed to come to minicamp to try to make the team. That's
crazy.
That's right. Like, and even a rookie that gets drafted and makes the team. Yeah, listen, 500,000, that's real money.
Sure.
Yeah,
But it's not the
absolutely.
way. That's the majority of the NFL. It's not what everyone sees. It's not Tom Brady.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And so, of course, to your point, yes, there's 12 people making 7 figures.
Sure.
But the far majority, even the ones that everyone who's listening now look up to, they're in the 6-figure game.
Yeah.
And then the far majority's in the 5 and 4-figure game.
For sure.
Right.
I didn't even know that there was a figure that low.
But the best
Yeah.
part about that, though, is that they love it, though. I know that everyone wants to make more money, but, I mean, as a kid, I grew up skating. I turned pro when I was 30. I didn't make any money, but I didn't care because I loved where I was at. I don't. Where is that like button? Right? Is it right here or right here?
Just a little scroll coming down the bottom.
It's
Subscribe.
over to it's on your
It's on my
left.
right? It's on
No,
my
on your
left.
left.
Hey,
Yeah.
hit that
Right there.
button right there.
Right there.
Right
Yeah,
there.
please.
The like button's kind of like in the middle there. It's like we're kind of.
It's like right here?
Kind of.
Like
yeah,
right
and the
there?
subscribe's like over to the left.
It's like right over there. All right.